And welcome back. This is Chapter 5. We're going to go over some of the information on educational beliefs, teaching, and supervision. I want to draw your attention back to this slide, which I really like, as we think about the prerequisites that a supervisor needs to have. Knowledge, interpersonal skills, and technical skills. You need to use those wisely as you formulate your supervisory approach. You already talked about the technical tasks in which there really was no correct answer, but more than likely you would work with some type of professional development and action research where you would analyze your data and then you would make your plan. The direct assistance probably would come last because that's really the one-on-one direct assistance for teachers that are not doing what you need them to do or not teaching the way you need them to teach or making the student achievement gains. Then we look at the focus for supervisor. We want to have school and teacher effectiveness as one bucket. We want to think about our supervisory beliefs, where we are on what the educational philosophy is in supervising, and then also our belief on teacher development, professional growth, and learning. So when you think about your instructional goals and effective teaching, you want to think about what kind of environment you want to create and what you think needs to be addressed for the individual needs of your students. When you look at moving this into instructional improvement, you want to identify your goals. Certainly you're focused on meeting the needs of the students and developing strategies, just like in a school improvement plan. You want to use the correct supervisory role. You want to clarify your school and classroom goals, and then you want to provide instructional support. The supervisory approach is one of the things you're going to look at as you analyze some of the things that you may or may not do as a supervisor. Certainly working with teachers, you want to think about all of these qualities that play into the teachers, or let's say you're an athletic administration, the qualities of the coaches that you're supervising. What's their knowledge and ability level? What is their commitment to the profession? How do they enhance students or players for their success and passion? What's the interplay among those people? And instruction and classroom management, and let's look at on the field or off the field. Reflective inquiry in terms of looking at your own professional practice. How are you planning for instruction and organizing for that? And then flexibility. We also want to think about being culturally responsive teachers, so you want to think about the values and being all-inclusive for your students and the community in which you're teaching. You want to think about their culture, using that in teaching and learning, and then having your students become culturally responsive, and then also developing their ability to look at the larger picture where things are falling short. In Chapter 5, there's an opportunity to analyze your beliefs about education. As you're practicing that, you can look at these three scenarios, Joan, Bill, and Pat, and think about how they teach. And of course, each of the three are very different. Then if you watch them, or someone watched you, what would you say? Are you most like Joan, Bill, and Pat? And so I encourage you to just take a little time to reflect on that, to think about, are you teaching the way you want to teach? What would someone say about you? And what is your actual style? Then when you're building your educational platform, these are the different planks: purpose, curriculum, learning environment, etc. And then these are the questions that are in Chapter 5 that you can use if you haven't already developed a philosophy of education. I encourage you to use these to think about the purpose, the content, the learning environment, etc. Then when you develop that into philosophy, it shouldn't just be question, answer, but you can use all of the 10 to really think about what you would like to see. And this is a good opportunity to really think out of the box and stretch yourself. Then we think about supervisory beliefs, meaning how do we think people should be supervised, or as a leader, what are you looking for? And then again, you're looking at these examples in the text, Bob, John, and Sean, and you'll see that each of them has a very different style. So you have to be thinking about what would their style be, how much control, how much collaboration, or how much teacher empowerment are they delegating out. And as you think about your own supervisory platform, here are a list of questions. And these questions are also posted online on Canvas, but they're also in the book in Chapter 5. So think about your definition. What is the purpose? Who should supervise? Who should be supervised? What are the technical skills? And other questions. And again, you can use this to develop what you're about as a supervisor. One easy way to think about a supervisor is think of someone that supervises you that you believe does a good job, and think about their skills, their strategies, their attitude that make them a good leader. And that could be a department chair, an assistant principal, a lead teacher, a head coach, an athletic administrator. Then one of the things that you always have to think about is the effects of the culture on the school. So every school has a culture. As a new leader coming in, you would be remiss to not consider the culture. People have a way of doing things. You need to embrace it. You need to peel back the layers and get to know what's going on. And if you're going to make changes to the culture, you have to understand that that takes an incredible amount of time, energy, and you need buy-in from the people that are working with you. And that could just be the same as being a department chair in a new department. There's a culture. There's a way that people are accustomed to doing things. Then as you read, you'll be looking at some of the larger supervisory philosophies and also educational philosophies. So I call them the big E's. You have essentialism, experimentalism, and existentialism. This chart is a nice summary in terms of the reality, how people learn, and then its application to supervision. So you might want to think about that as you're reading. Use this as a guide to help you crystallize the big 3 E's. You may not fall into specifically one of the 3 E's, but then again you might be, or you might be a combination of all of them. 2 additional ones to think about is perennialism and also progressivism. So we could put the 2 P's and the 3 E's all together, and that should give you various options to choose from as you think about your philosophies of education. Then when we make our connection, if you have the educational philosophy, essential, experimental, or existential, then we need to think about the decision making. So if you're an essentialist, that's basically the control freak. It's very high on the supervisor, very low on the teacher. So you tend to lead in a very directive fashion, my way or the highway. If you're experimentalism, then that's more like a science teacher, where you have this supervisor and teacher can be equal, because your philosophy might be in collaborative and the students learning and exploring and more hands-on, and as a leader you find that you are more collaborative. If you're existentialist, then you're very non-directive because it's low as a supervisor, and then the teacher has high responsibility. You have full confidence in them. You're just there to touch base, to listen, shake your head, yes, no, but that you really empower the teacher. Now again, keep in mind, all of these are very extreme examples, and most people probably are not at one extreme or the other all of the time, although I bet you could think about a very directive leader, maybe someone who's collaborative, sometimes non-directive, but don't confuse that with the laissez-faire, where you actually give up control and you're not as invested in it. There's quite a difference. If you're non-directive, you really do empower the person because you have full confidence in their abilities. So in this week, you actually will do some of these surveys, and they will help you crystallize your philosophy, and it'll give you more information to share and write about in your paper. And then also there is a survey, which is the Situational Leadership Inventory by Hersey Blanchard. I want you to take that and score that. There'll be details on how to score that. What's nice about that is it's just another example, a little bit different from Glickman, which if you think about, he lays out the directive, collaborative, and non-directive on a continuum. And in the Hersey Blanchard, the continuum is S1, S2, S3, and S4. So similarly, if you're in the S1, you're directive. More collaborative when you move towards the coaching and supporting. You're less directive over here in 3. And then this phrase for Hersey Blanchard is more delegating, where in Glickman it is non-directive. So they're not quite the same, but I did want you to see where you fall out. Then when you're looking at the people with whom you would lead, D1 is when you have low competence. So sometimes this might be a newer teacher. You're the supervisor. They're highly committed. They just are new, and you find that you're more directive. Now they've demonstrated some competence, or maybe their commitment has shifted, so you might be a little more collaborative. As you move to 3, they have high competence, variable commitment. So you might support, and they might be closer to moving on their own. And then D4, high competence and high commitment. So this really is, they're good to go. They've arrived, so to speak. So I just want you to think about these facets of supervision with some of the readings and some of the tools that will be provided in this session. And I thank you, and I'm out.